geologist with the U.S. Geological Survey, and she works out of Sacramento, but we've been talking with her, and she does a lot of work in this area, so she's very familiar with our rocks and our soil. So without any more, let's just give it over to Michelle, and please give her your attention, guys.
All right, thanks. I'm glad you guys can make it out here today. I'm Michelle Sneed, as you said. I work for the U.S. Geological Survey, and it's a really, really, really great job. I get to be outside. I get to do things like this with you guys. And I'm sort of like a detective in some ways. I do a lot of the same things that a detective would do. Instead of trying to find out, who committed a crime, I kind of explain the natural world and how these mountains came to be and how this sand is here and why earthquakes happen and what makes a volcano erupt and things like that. So, but just like a detective, I have to make observations. So a detective will go to the scene of a crime. I will go to the geologic scene and I'll make observations and then I try to put a story about it. Like, okay, so I observed these mountains and I know what they're made of, and we'll get to that in a little bit. And so I try to explain how they came to be. And then I try to prove it right, just like a detective would have to do, right? That a detective has to prove who done it. And I try to do the same thing, and I do that by making tests to try to prove myself right or wrong. If I'm right, then it kind of strengthens my idea of how this geology occurred. And if it's wrong, then I have to change my story a little bit and start again and make some tests to try to learn how things happen. So I'm a lot like a detective or a mechanic. A mechanic does the same thing. You bring your car into the shop, you say, my car's overheating, and they think, well, that's probably something to do with the radiator. And then they'll try to see if they find cracks in the radiator or something like that to prove their theory. So my job's the same way, it's just that I try to explain the natural world. So that's what I do. My tools are a little different than mechanics or detectives. I don't carry a gun, but I do carry a rock hammer. That's to break open rocks. Sometimes rock chip is varnished, called desert varnish, and that's that brown coating you see up there. And so I might use my rock hammer to break open a rock so I can see a clean surface. And we're going to talk more about that. Once I get a clean surface, I might use my hand lens to look up really, really close to see if I can see what minerals make up the rock. I might get my color chart out. I'll show you guys that in a little bit and see what color it is. I might get out a streak plate. You guys are going to learn about that in a little bit too. And draw the rock on the streak plate and see what color that is. I might try to figure out how hard the rock is. Some rocks are really hard, some are really soft. So those are some of the things I would do to try to identify a rock or a mineral. So